Right, here we are with the 2011 MacBook Air. I thought I'd do a comparison video similar to the ones that I've done for the 2010 Air, so you can see what the differences are. Firstly, let's have a look and see which model we're working on. This is the 13-inch top of the range 1.8 GHz i7 chip with 4 GB RAM and 256 gig SSD in it. You'll also notice it's got slightly more video RAM as well at 384 meg as opposed to only 256 in the other units, I think. So let's have a look in a bit more detail. Things to note, firstly, if we look at the SSD setup, you'll notice that it is a 6 gig chip, so SATA 3, in line with all the other units that are out there now. The only thing to note, of course, that the SSD that Apple have chosen to use, in this case a Samsung unit, is only operating at 3 gigabits. Okay, the other thing that's interesting, you'll notice that trim is enabled by default. Now, one thing I have noticed, that even on my 2010 11-inch unit, by putting Lion on, you don't get trim automatically on that SSD. You have to hack it to enable it. Other things of note, of course, there's a Thunderbolt port in there. There we go, there's the details. I don't have any devices connected at the moment. Okay, so let's have a look at the performance stats, the Xbench stats. Alright, first thing, one quick thing on the Xbench stats. The thread test doesn't seem to work on Lion, so if you're trying to get stats on a Lion-based unit, you have to turn off the thread test. That's what I've done on the stats here that I've already run. So let's have a look at these. Firstly, the thing that's particularly impressive is the performance of the drive. That's a lot faster than the SSD that's in the 11-inch unit, the Toshiba. It's also a little bit quicker than the Vertex 2E that I have in my MacBook Pro as well. Not quite as fast as the C300, the SATA 3 based devices, of course, but what would you expect? Okay, so let's jump into Windows in Parallels and we'll have a look at the performance index in there. Okay, here's our Windows machine. I'm just going to switch it to full screen. There we go. Firstly, let's just have a look at the Windows Performance Index. There we go. It's a 4.4, dragged down by the business graphics, of course. Well, in fact, the graphics are general, considering that it's virtualized. Processor scores, the disk transfer rate, they're all excellent. Perfectly usable as a virtual machine for even the heaviest sort of office tasks. I find it perfectly acceptable. Let's have a look at some of the application performance. So let's fire up as Excel. It's Word. It's not PowerPoint, sorry, that's Project. Visio. Let's maybe fire up PowerPoint as well. There we go. I think you can see the performance is perfectly acceptable. The only thing I will say, by the way, because I'm using QuickTime to record the screen, it's actually not quite as snappy because I'm writing out to the same drive as well. Without QuickTime running, it's a little bit snappier than you're seeing here. Okay, so that performance index there that we've just seen. So that's Windows 7 running under Parallels. Okay, if we have a look at the spec of the machine I've put in, you should see that I've got all the processor cores assigned. So there's two processor cores with hyper-threading. So it's showing the 4 cores. I've also got 2 gig of RAM assigned to this machine. So what we'll do, let's drop out of this and I'll show you what it looks like in Boot Camp as well. Let's just suspend that. There we go. So let's just quickly jump into Boot Camp and we'll do the comparison. Right, so this is my Windows 7 but in Boot Camp. I say it's in Boot Camp. I've actually booted it up under VMware Fusion, so it's virtualized at the moment. Let's just switch it to full screen. There we go. Firstly then, let's just look at the performance index and we can compare it. There we go. Now it will say that it needs refreshing because obviously we're running virtualized now. But the figures there are from when I run it as Boot Camp natively. As you can see, the figures are pretty impressive. Still held back by the graphics. There's a 6.9 on the processor and a 6.8 on the disk transfer, which are both really impressive. Okay, so let's fire up some applications. What should we do? Let's go for it. There's Excel down the bottom there. There's Word, PowerPoint, Visio. It's still pretty impressive, but bear in mind it'll be slightly faster if we run it natively as well. So it's not really a great test, this, to be honest. There we go, we've got everything running. Okay, so what we'll do is let's shut this down and I'll show you the application performance actually native in OS 10. I'll just get rid of all these apps. Right, let's just shut this down, it may take a second. Right, there we go, that's closed down. Okay, so we're back in OS 10, so let's fire up a couple of apps in OS 10 and you can just see what the performance is like. So let's maybe start with Excel. Go for Word, Firefox, and Safari. As I pointed out earlier, the machine is a little bit slower when I'm using QuickTime to record. It, for example, there you saw a couple of bounces pop up for Excel. You don't see that when I'm not running something else that's quite disk intensive in the background. And of course these are first launches as well, so they're not going to be cached. So if I fire them up again, they should be significantly quicker. There we go. It really is a very usable machine. It certainly, to give you an idea, because of the SSD, it actually feels quite a bit more fluid and, if not quicker, than my 3.4 gig i7 iMac, which is based on a 2 terabyte physical drive. Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't scale as well. I can't run as many things on it. It doesn't have the same memory that my iMac does, but in terms of actual raw performance, when you're using it for an office type laptop, it's astonishing. It's a great unit. Would I upgrade from a 2010 to a 2011, or rather, well, obviously I would because I have. Um, no, I probably wouldn't. I mean, the bottleneck really is the physical drive. Once you've got to an SSD, and if you're only running, sort of your office-based apps, I don't think you'll see a massive performance boost by switching to the newer Airs. But I guess that's a decision for everybody else to make. Anyway, I hope that helped.